Hi, this is Jeff Bronstein, Developer Evangelist at SpectraLogic. Today I'm going to show you a simple web-based application I built using one of our DS3 software development kits. DS3 is an HTTP command set similar to Amazon's S3, and it's used by our BlackPearl Deep Storage Gateway. BlackPearl makes it easier than ever to move data to tape. Let's take a look.
First, let's look at the end result of the application I built. I wanted to build a web-based application where users could move files between a file server and a BlackPearl, similar to an FTP program. If we look at the architecture diagram for my application, you see that it's central around a server. The server is both a file server and a web server. It's a file server because it allows users to move files between the server and the BlackPearl device back and forth. And of course, once files are on the BlackPearl, they are moved to a tape library. The server also served as a web server, and that allowed users to access the application from a web device, such as a laptop, and to do the file management. So my code that I wrote, my application, sits on this server, and it lives within the web server. So in order to get started, the first thing I needed to do was go to the SpectraLogic Developer Program website. That's available at developer.spectralogic.com. Here I can download the BlackPearl Simulator. As the name implies, the BlackPearl Simulator is an application that simulates a BlackPearl, so you don't need an actual BlackPearl to get started with development. This runs as a virtual machine on your local device, and you can see here it runs in VirtualBox. And once I have this up and running, it's just like I have a real BlackPearl. It can be programmatically interfaced with, and it even has a web interface just like a BlackPearl. From this web interface, I can manage the buckets, which are the top level folders of a BlackPearl, as well as manage users. Once I had the simulator up and running, the next thing I needed to do was download the software development kit code. That can be accessed at github.com/spectralogic. You'll see here that on this page we have a number of repositories. The one we want is called DS3 Net SDK, and that's because I'm building a C#.NET application. Once I click on this page and scroll down a bit, you'll see there's a number of useful pieces of information on this page. The first explains how to install the code in your development environment. And in this case, we'll be using a NuGet package, and we'll be installing that package into Microsoft Visual Studio. The other thing this page has is the ability to download some sample code using these example projects. So you can see some real code that shows how to do things like put files to the BlackPearl or create a bucket. And of course, as you would expect with any software development kit, we have full documentation that explains how to use all of the classes and methods available in the development kit. You can click through and find those, and that should help you develop your code. Once I had all those tools ready to go, the next thing I did was I went into my development environment, Visual Studio, and I installed that NuGet package. And that gave me this DS3 Net SDK assembly. This assembly contains all of the classes and methods I need to interface with the BlackPearl. So what I did is I went ahead and wrote all my C# code. I created a number of methods to interact with the BlackPearl device via my web interface. And so, for example, I have a method here called createBucket. That's a method that my web-based application can call, and what it do, as the name implies, it creates buckets on the BlackPearl. And you can see this is the software development kit code that we provide that is available from that assembly. With just 2 lines of code, I'm able to create a bucket. So very simple. There's lots of other tools available that you can use in the SDK to interact with the BlackPearl to do things such as list the objects on the BlackPearl or move files to and from the BlackPearl. Once I'd written all that C# code and written all my used all the SDK tools that were available, of course I still had to build the rest of my application. So I wrote that. That consisted primarily of HTML, JavaScript, and CSS. Once I had that done, I was ready to go, and I had my application up and running. I was able to test it against the simulator and make sure that the code behaved as expected. Once I had that built, I had my application. Let's just take a look at that again. We'll refresh it here. You can see that the application first asks the user for the information about the BlackPearl, such as the name of the BlackPearl on the network and the ID and key to access it. And of course, on the file server, we want to know what directory to start in terms of managing the files. Then we can hit connect, and immediately the application starts running. The first thing it does is it calls the BlackPearl and gets a list of all the buckets that are on the BlackPearl, and I can open up one of those buckets and see all the objects and files that are inside of that bucket. Of course, it does the same thing on the file server side, and I can access that. The other thing I can do, of course, is I can move files back and forth between the BlackPearl and the server. So if I wanted to push this file up to the BlackPearl, just a simple drag and drop, I can move that over. I can move over individual files, or I can move over complete directories, and I can go back and forth with that. And I can also create buckets. I can delete files, and of course I can delete buckets. Now there's a lot more you can do with the software development kit, but I just wanted to build an application that showed some of the basic core functionality available. If you're going to start building applications and you need help, you've got a few resources. The first place to go is to developer.spectralogic.com. Lots of information there. If you want to contact us directly, you can send us an email at developer@spectralogic.com. Now we've also got a Google group where you can interface with us, and we encourage you to use that. It's called Spectralogic DS3 SDKs, and we'll answer your questions quickly. Good luck developing, and thanks for your time.